It's Saturday, July 27, 2019, and I'm back with a 5-minute podcast review. It's been a while. I've been working on a project which has had me travelling a lot. Not great for podcast producing, though I did consider it a few times, taking the gear on the road, but in the end, I don't know that I'd have had the time to record and edit anyway. As any of you who've produced a podcast would know, it takes a bit of time. Actually, I've heard that as a rule of thumb, it takes about an hour of work for every minute of podcast broadcast time, which seems about right. Anyhow, I may not have been able to make podcasts, but I definitely had a lot of opportunity to listen to podcasts. And you can really make a dent in your podcast playlist backlog on a long flight. And I had quite a few flights in the 10 to 15 hour range. Of course, all the long-haul flights these days have pretty extensive in-flight entertainment options, the latest movies, TV shows, etc. And I noticed on a few flights podcast menus, though with only a dozen or so podcasts on the list. Not many when I think I read the other day that there's now over 750,000 podcasts out there. But the point I was going to make was that despite the well-stocked in-flight entertainment systems, I more often than not opted for a podcast on my own playlist rather than the latest movie or anything else on the in-flight entertainment system. Not that I never watched it, I picked off a few films and some TV that I'd been wanting to watch, but still, just as often or more often, it was a podcast sitting on my playlist that I just preferred to go for. So, what have I been listening to? There's a lot of great new stuff out there, but I've just got to mention a podcast I've covered before, but that's just become mandatory listening, and that's The Daily from the New York Times. If you're not listening to The Daily, just hit pause right now, click the link on your screen, and go and subscribe. It's a daily news podcast, and there's a fair few of them out there now, but The Daily just nails it, taking a current subject each episode and pulling it apart, breaking it down and almost magically revealing the kind of unexpected insights into the issue that you feel compelled to repeat at the dinner table. When I first reviewed The Daily back in, I think, 2017, I would have recommended scrolling the episodes and picking off the subjects that caught your interest. Now, I'd just say pretty much listen to all episodes that drop. Time and time again, I've started listening to an episode that I didn't think I'd stick with, topic that I wasn't interested in, only to be pulled into listening to the whole episode because of the inevitable, surprising twists and turns of the story, and coming away from the episode having really learned something, having really got an insight into an issue, and feeling like I've been told an interesting story along the way. Anyhow, I think I made the point. Check out The Daily if you're not already listening to it. Okay, let's move on to some new podcast suggestions, stuff I've been listening to in the past few months and think is worth recommending. First up is Tech and Society with Mark Zuckerberg. So this is basically Mark Zuckerberg's new podcast. It's an occasional series with 4 episodes up now since April. And what we get is Zuckerberg in conversation, long conversations, with a range of academics on what the blurb describes as, quote, a series of conversations on the future of technology and society. In reality, though, each episode seems like some sort of public consultation Zuckerberg is conducting with experts on the future of Facebook, dealing with the issues of privacy, censorship, free speech, fake news, and election interference that Facebook has been caught up in over the last few years, not just in the US, but around the world. So, of course, it's hard not to be cynical and see at least an element of this as being a PR exercise for Zuckerberg and Facebook, keeping in mind there are calls out there for the breakup of Facebook, but having listened to all 4 episodes, I'm prepared to give the benefit of the doubt. The conversations are genuine with genuine experts like Harvard and Stanford law professors. They're not totally light conversations, there's a lot of getting into the weeds, but if you're up for a long, thought-provoking conversation, this could be a podcast to check out. And at another level, it's just interesting to hear Zuckerberg talk at length and get some kind of insight into his personality and thinking. So if it sounds like your kind of thing, have a listen to Tech and Society with Mark Zuckerberg. And you can do that using the link I've put on your screen. Righto, for something much shorter, check out another new podcast, 10 Things That Scare Me. The episodes here are short, usually 4 or 5 minutes, where people do lo-fi recordings, like into their iPhones, of the 10 things that scare them. Sometimes it's delivered as a continuous stream of thought, and sometimes it's recorded one thought at a time over a few days, like an audio diary. There's a bit of a celebrity smattering thrown in with an episode recorded by Duff McKagan, as well as episodes by podcast celebrities like Alex Goldman, Dan Savage, Dali Kine, and John Ronson, I think. But for the most part, episodes just seem to be regular people, whatever that means, from a variety of backgrounds and situations. It's a good filler podcast when you just need to kill 5 minutes waiting in a queue or wherever. That's 10 things that scare me. So last suggestion for this episode, something a bit different. It's a newish podcast called, and you'll have to excuse my language here, it's called Fucks Given. Yep, that's right, I'll say it again, Fucks Given. It's a bit of a list type podcast, just like 10 Things That Scare Me, or maybe Desert Island Discs, except that it's not significant songs in one's life that guests come on to describe. Here's a little introductory clip from the hosts that explains it best.
Welcome to Fucks Given. Every week, we will welcome a special guest to share with us their juicy details about their best fucks, worst fucks, or even the fucks that changed them. We're removing the stigma around the whole number bullshit.
No matter how many people you've slept with, the number never matters because the fucks given are the fucks that made us.
Well, there you go, and that's about it. Hopefully something new to listen to in that lot, which included The Daily, Tech and Society with Mark Zuckerberg, 10 Things That Scare Me, and Fucks Given. Links to all are on your screen, and I'll catch you next time.